Thanks for taking the time to chat with us up here in Canada today. We're so excited. Your brand new album officially out now, featuring your third straight number one, Handle on You. I am loving this album. How good does it feel to have it released and out in the world?
Um, it's just the easy part. It kills me to write songs and think about them and listen to them and critique them, and it takes so much out of me. And then once the record's done, you got to sit around for several months waiting on it to come out. So it's kind of start playing mind games with yourself about it. So once it's out, that's the easy part, and you really just get to enjoy going out and playing new songs and a fresh set list, and it's a good feeling.
Now, when you're playing those mind games, is it Hallie, your wife, that you call? Who helps bring you back down and settle you down and say, okay, you just put out a fantastic album, or you're going to be putting out a fantastic album? Who helps you out?
Nobody. I don't talk about it with anybody. I typically, think about it all day long, every day in my head, and way overthink it and way over critique the entire thing. And it's it's kind of a crazy back and forth battle that I have with myself. But once the record's out, it's kind of over.
Yeah. Well, one of the songs on the record I absolutely love. There's a couple I wanted to ask you questions about, but Hurricane, I heard it and immediately was like, I am in love with this song.
Thank you.
And I was listening to it and it's immediately familiar in a good way. So I was doing some digging. Was the guitar riff inspired by the Friends theme song? Was that my ears playing tricks on me?
No, I don't think it was inspired by, we were sitting in the studio and Rob McNelly was kind of messing around with it before we were really cutting it. And he kept playing that lick over and over again. And I said, man, I really like that. That sounds awesome. And really digging it. And then, we cut the song a couple times. We were kind of sitting there listening back, and I'm like, what does this sound like? Like, what is this on? And I thought it was, some song that I, in country music or whatever, but ended up being the intro to Friends. And, John Randall, my producer, was like, do you want to go back and change it? Like, let's, we can find another guitar lick. And I just said, absolutely not. I think that's genius. And it's not right on it. So it's not like, it's not the exact, Friends intro. But
There's no claps.
there was a tambourine, which really made it similar. So we took the tambourine out, a little bit of extra percussion. But I just thought it was really cool. And I love the show, for many years and watched it. It was always on TV when I was a kid. So it was kind of nostalgic for me. I thought it was kind of and I'm sure there's some people who probably don't think it's very cool, but I thought it was really neat.
Oh, I loved it. And you're right. You and I were very similar in age. I think we're a year apart. So I grew up Friends. The reruns were everywhere. You couldn't turn on a TV and not have Friends on. If you were to be cast on Friends, who would you be cast as?
Probably Joey.
Yeah.
He's kind of the goofy one,
Yep.
kind of, he's really funny, kind of without always trying to be. And I feel like that's probably how I am, unintentionally goofy.
Also very food motivated as well, maybe.
Love to eat, love to eat.
So if they were to do Friends just based in Texas, of course that's where you're from. And who would be the Texas Chandler to your Joey? Would that be like a Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, Steve
That's
Martin?
great. I wasn't even going there. I wasn't even going to go there, but yes, sure. Matthew McConaughey would absolutely be my Chandler for sure.
Thinking of things that bring me back to my childhood, I saw you on stage the other week and you had a Killers t-shirt on. I'm curious, back in the day, we grew up before iPods were a thing. What was on your mixed CDs back in the day, other than country music, of course?
No, I probably had one mixed CD with a bunch of Houston rappers,
Okay.
some underground Houston rappers that I still listen to this day. But really, all of my when I was a kid, it was all Texas country singer-songwriters and classic country. So all of the guys that were kind of coming up in the early to mid 2000s in the Texas scene was, I mean, I would steal their songs off LimeWire. I probably owe them quite a bit of money for all the legal out of their song. But that's really all it was.
And did you burn your CDs and then make like you'd write the names on the CDs in permanent marker afterwards?
Yeah, I remember my buddy, one of my best friends in the world, Corey Toops. His dad is a huge music guy. Always had guitars and records at his house and stuff. And he had a computer at their house. And when we were in high school, I went over there one day with a big thing of blank CDs and I downloaded his entire library on CDs. It took several hours. Everybody from Jackie Green to Tom Petty to Pat Green to Robert Earl King to James McMurtry to you name it was on it. And I stole it all.
And what do you do? Do you still have those CDs? Did you get rid of them at a garage sale one day?
They're probably still in that truck that I sold all those years ago.
Amazing. Another song I wanted to ask you about was Too Tight This Time. Is it true? You wrote that in 15 minutes, no takebacks, no whiteout, no delete buttons, just whatever came out, that was it?
It was probably a little longer than 15 minutes, but as I just didn't want to think about that one. I loved the melody so much. There's a couple lines in that song that I just fell in love with as soon as I said them out loud. And that song just to me felt like it was in a dream. It feels like a dream if a dream was a song. And that was kind of the space I was living in right then and there. And I'm so bad about over critiquing and overthinking, and I just do it probably too much. It's probably a big fault of mine as a songwriter, but that one I just didn't want to do that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thinking of songs and verses that stuck out to you, you were in a dream. Heart Like Mine, another number one for you. I read that you had that first verse for 4 years because you knew it was something special. On Never Enough, did you have a song like that where you were hanging on to a line or a chorus before you put that album out? Something that stuck with you?
Not necessarily as long as I had Your Heart Again. It wasn't the first verse; it was just the melody. I
Okay.
be on guitar in probably 2016, and just always would play it anytime I picked up a guitar for years. I would just play this melody, and I always thought it was so cool, but never really tried to write it, or I just knew when it was supposed to happen, it would, and one day it would happen, and luckily it did. And Ashley Gordon and Lee Miller, thank God they were on that song because I don't think anybody else could have written it quite like that. And my favorite songs in the world are about it going all wrong and being at your lowest, and that song. I've been there many times, so it's kind of easy for me to go back there mentally when I need to when I'm writing. And that song was no different. And it was Ashley that night that was playing it on piano, and that's really what started kind of pushing the creative side of that song for me, and just started pouring lines out and really digging into it. So I'm really glad we kept it as a piano ballad, but it's the only one that I had that long.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I'm glad you're talking about sticking with it. And it just reminded me of something I saw on Instagram. This was 4 or 5 months ago. You played the Governor's Ball, and it looked like a ton of fun. Oh my gosh, talk about a great night out. And I saw you said that you used to tell your teachers that you were going to be the governor of Texas. And then put TBD. What were you like back in, school? What was a young Parker McCollum like back then? Like on my report cards, I always got Chatty Cathy, as I'm sure you can probably tell. I went into radio for a reason.
I don't know. I mean, I was kind of a goofy kid. I loved to play sports, but I was always, I never did my homework. I never studied. or anything like that. But I always had a really good time in school, and always had for the most part, I had some teachers that did not like me very much. But for the most part, I had a really good, at least every year I had a couple teachers I had a really good relationship with. A couple of them I still talk to nowadays, and one of them actually pretty good. A couple of them I'm pretty good buddies with now, and they've come to some shows. So one of them came and saw us play the Houston Rodeo in front of like 70,000 people, a couple months ago, and he still has the piece of paper I signed. I think maybe an assignment we had done in school one day, and I said, "You're gonna need to keep that. It's gonna be worth something one day." I wrote it on it. So I always had a couple teachers like that every year, but I don't know. I was kind of a normal kid, I guess.
Thinking about school, I want to ask you about the Houston Rodeo in a second, but thinking about school, we're coming up to the end of the school year here in Canada in a couple weeks. Lots of prom pictures are going around online right now. Did you go to your prom? Who'd you go with? What was it like?
I did, and I told all my buddies, I said, "Hey, let's all get white tuxes for prom." And so that was the deal. We were all going to get white, and then everybody decided to get black at the last second and never told me. So I show up white, head to toe, looking fly. I looked great, and everybody else is in a black tux. So that was kind of funny. But I did go. We went. We had a good time. I don't even remember. I don't remember where we went afterwards or anything, but I did go.
Did you have a date, or was it just the guys in the black suits? You all rolled in together.
Definitely had a date.
Amazing. Well, thank you for hanging out with us today on Pure Country. And just about the Houston Rodeo, I saw in a really great video that you posted afterwards, you said, chasing your dreams is one thing, catching them is a whole nother story. At this point, you've got a new album out, 3 consecutive #1s at radio. Do you feel like you're still chasing your dreams, or do you think that you're starting to catch them now?
It's kind of funny because the rodeo was like the thing that I was trying to do. That was like the pinnacle for me. That was like what I was thinking about all the time. That's what got me out of bed. That's what got me on the road. Got me through the days where I didn't know if I wanted to do it anymore. I was like, I just wanted to play the Houston Rodeo NRG Stadium and sell it out so bad. And so when I did that for the first time, I was kind of like, okay, what's next? I mean, the next day, I was like, all right, that's it. We did it. Now what do I do? So it's kind of exciting to, have accomplished that. But at the same time, I just feel like we have so far to go, and we are not even remotely close to what we could tap into. Me as a songwriter and as a performer and as a musician, but also just me in the band and the level that we aspire to get to. And I think you always want to be on the come up. That is the absolute best, is the days where you're really working hard. Because once you get there, it's kind of like I just said about the rodeo. It's the next day I was like,
what's next? Yeah.
So, the getting there was so much fun. I mean, there were some days really where I didn't know if we were even going to play the next show, but I'm really glad that I stuck with it.
Absolutely. So next goal, I mean, we had Chris Stapleton at the Super Bowl last year. Parker McCollum 2024. Can we manifest it? That's the next goal.
No, I don't think anybody should sing the national anthem ever again except for Chris Stapleton. So
I fully endorse that. He did such a great. Are you a football guy?
Big time.
Okay, I'm a Bills girl. I know draft or fantasy football draft is coming up weeks. Well, actually a couple months. Who should I have my eyes on for a QB or an RB1 this year?
I would walk out on a limb a little bit, and I'd get me one of these new guys, maybe a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. One of these top draft picks that have a bunch to prove in their rookie years. Sometimes are pretty good.
Okay, there we go. Heard it here first from Parker McCollum. I'm gonna win this year.
Yeah, I believe you. Do it.
Amazing, Parker. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks, Leanne.